Shalom, 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 Israel, giving no praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem, Achakadash. Double honor to the elders, GMS, Ruel, so teach to Akim out there pushing his word and truth and sincerity, risking your freedom and your life to do so. More so now than ever before, because we are at the very, very, very last leg of the statue, the B system, okay? And a lot of things are being revealed. Now, I'm doing this video because with as much information has come out already, there's still questions to who the 10 lost tribes are. Like, this is not obvious already, all right? And I'm just going to give you a brief analysis on the history of the quote-unquote Native Americans and the Spanish-speaking tribes. You are the Israelites. You are of the seed of Jacob, the loins of Jacob. And we're going to give you the history on it. Now, a brother had put this article up. It was one of the elders, and a long time ago, but I was never able to do a video on it. And as you can see, this is from AISH.com. Aish. And you could just type in Native Americans and the Jews. And it's going to give you a brief synopsis. So I'm going to try to read it as fast as possible and link it with the scriptures to further prove who the 10 lost tribes are. Because it's time for you Hispanic and Native Americans to join the fold. Come back to the Lord. Because you are the sons of Jacob. And I'm going to prove it. So this is Native Americans and the Jews. Whether or not Native Americans are one of the lost tribes of Israel, the strange parallels between them and the Jews are intriguing. In his book, Mikveh Israel, written in 1650, the scholar Menashe ben Israel suggested that a brand of South and Central American Indians were a remnant of Jews sent to exile by King Assyria and from the 10 lost tribes. Right, and if you go into history, the 10 tribes was exiled out of the land of Israel and went captive in Assyria. And we're going to get that history. And then they served captivity and then left the land to come to America. And that's where Christopher Colombo found them. And he started, naming those lands, Puerto Rico, which means Puerto Riches, and the Taino Indians, the Aztecs. Mind you, you could find over 800 relics of Hebrew writing, ancient Paleo Hebrew, Abba-Gadaha, and inscriptions of the 10 Commandments written in stones. All right, showing you, but I'm gonna further get into it. It says, exiled by King Assyria and from the 10 lost tribes. His theory did not gain popularity among the rabbis of his time. The notion was revived when James Adair, an Irish trader who lived among the Indians for over 40 years, wrote in his book, The History of the American Indians, published in 1775. And Lord willing, I'll be able to get that book. I'm sure it's very expensive now. James Adair did an excellent piece on the customs that the Native Americans have, and what he correlated was the custom that they had was very, very Mosaic. Like, it was very much like the Mosaic law, the Torah. Therefore, identifying the Native Americans and the Hispanics as Israelites. Okay, so it says, in quotations, from the most accurate observation I can make, and the long time I traded amongst the Indians of America, I was forced to believe them linearly, meaning lineage, linearly descended from the tribes of Israel. Adair recorded a number of parallels in cultural practices between the Jews and the Indians. Some examples include their division into tribes, right? You got Gad, Manasseh, Reuben, Issachar, Ephraim, Simeon, Naphtali, All right, these those you have to divide according to the line because it's 12 tribes. The division into tribes, the appointment of holy priests. That's why it was 10 tribes, because Levi never had an allotment. So Levi was the priest of all 12 tribes. I mean, all 11 tribes. Okay. But they would appoint, even though it wasn't no priest, they would appoint holy priests to serve who? Yahweh, which is the name of God. Their manner of counting the months through the lunar year, which is the moon. Their festivals, the Passover, the Feast of Unleavened, and amongst Mexicans, you have something called, they eat a lot of unleavened bread, nachos, burritos, quesadillas. All of that is flatbread. What is that going back to? After the Passover, what do you have? The Feast of Unleavened, when you're not supposed to eat leaven. So it's like a tradition where they carry down for generations and don't understand the reason why they did it. Okay? So it says their festivals, some which he claimed corresponded with the Jewish calendar, their fast, the Day of Atonement, and religious rites which they believe help cleanse them from their sins, which is like the sacrifice. All right, so they sacrifice lambs and doves and turtles, goats, rams. You see, their laws of uncleanliness and marital separation during a woman's menstrual period. Right, when a woman's on her period for 7 days, she has to separate from the house. That's very biblical. Okay, which I'm gonna get into it. That they left the Assyrian captivity so they can follow the law of Moses, which they couldn't in the land that they served. You see? They left the Assyrian captivity so they could follow the laws of the Lord because they couldn't do it there. So everything he's mentioning right now is in the Mosaic law. It said their ritual purification after touching the dead. Right. You'll be unclean. You have to take the clothes off. You have to wash yourself. And you'll be unclean for 7 days. Their cities of refuge. Right. If you accidentally kill a man, to avoid the avenger of blood, that person will run to the refuge city until everything is sorted out. That way, this man doesn't die innocently because he didn't mean to do it, or he really didn't do the crime. You see what I'm saying? Their manner of burial and mourning for the dead, ashes on their head. They're perpetuating the name of a deceased brother through remarriage of his wife. Right, according to the law. See, the Mosaic law. This is what the Native Americans and the Hispanic tribes were doing. According, if your brother died and he had a wife and his wife never had a male child, what you do is the brother had to remarry his brother's wife to give her a male son, to bring back the name of his brother, which would come through his loins. You see. So it said Adair claimed that the Jews and Indians had similar languages and dialect, the Lashon Kodash, the Holy Tongue, the Hebrew, the Paleo-Hebrew, were both languages lacking preposition and formed with prefixes, suffixes. Adair also provided examples of Native American words that are supposedly similar to Hebrew. Right. The Native Americans, which biblically are called Gadites, would say Yahweh, 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 which is the name of God. It said, in one example, he referred to the word for a man in the Indian language as Ish or Aishi. Some influential individuals, such as Williams Penn, embraced his idea, but others, including Thomas Jefferson, were more than skeptical. In a letter penned to John Adams and Adair's belief, he wrote, he adopts all the falsehoods which favor his theory. The Holy Stone, Shalak, and I don't want to keep it too long. Another notable incident in the 1800s that refueled a dying debate was a discovery of Newark, this is in Jersey, holy stones, found in a cluster of Indians mine in New Ohio, or Salaki was Ohio. Some of the stones were written in a modern Hebrew alphabet, while others were in archaic or Paleo-Hebrew, which when we do our Passover, we speak in a Paleo, which is the ancient form of the Hebrew of all languages, a language that dates back to pre-Columbian times. The stones contained the name of God spelled out Yadu, Yad, Ki, Vav, Ki. An abridged version of the Ten Commandments, an engraving of what historians believe to be Moses, surrounded by ancient Hebrew lettering. Some years later, the Los Lunas dialect stone, 80-ton boulder with an abridged version of Ten Commandments in Paleo-Hebrew, was found in New Mexico. These discoveries sparked a reaction from both supporters and skeptics alike, while Reform leader Isaac Mayer Wise chose to undermine the stone's authenticity. Orthodox leader Isaac Lesser sided in favor of the theory. He penned in his paper, "The Occident, the sons of Jacob, were walking on the soils of Ohio many centuries before the birth of Columbus. Likewise, as many historians and archaeologists as there are who see the stones as authentic proofs, an equal number rejects them as hoaxes. None of these stones were tested for identity in the lab." Right, because they don't want to believe that. God, the Native Americans or the Hispanics are the true Hebrews. Okay. No, you can't hear me. One second. So this is the account. I know this is pretty long. I'm trying to wrap this up. 2nd Ezra 13, verse 40. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoner out of their own land in the time of Hosea, the king, whom Salmanasseh, the king of Assyria, led away captive. Right, the 10 tribes went into slavery under the Assyrians, and he carried them over the waters, and so they came to another land. So, right, so this is the history. In Ezra, verse 41, it says, verse 41, and they took this counsel among themselves, and they that would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt, that they might keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. And that's why James Adair was astonished and shocked to see that the Native American and Hispanic tribes, what's their name known now, that's what they're commonly known as, were keeping such ancient, holy Mosaic laws, you see? Because they took this counsel that they couldn't keep these laws in their own land. So therefore, they wanted to go somewhere else. Verse 43, and they entered into Euphrates by the narrow places of the river, for the Most High then shewed signs for them and held still the flood till they passed over. Right, so they left Assyria to go to a new land, which we're gonna find out what it was. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, and the same region is called Asareth. Asareth means new land, or never dwell. All right. And it said, and then dwelt they there until the latter time, and now when they should begin to come. Right. So now we're in the latter days. Now we're in the latter days where all 12 tribes are in the same land. This is Jeremiah 50, verse 33, and this is further proof. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together. Now, the only time Israel was together was during the time of Solomon, and then right before the split, when when it was a divide of Judah and Israel, okay, through the king, which was ordained by the Heavenly Father. But other than that, it was no other times where they were in captivity being oppressed together, other than America, Babylon the Great. Because they wasn't oppressed together in Assyria. The 10 tribes went to Assyria as captives, and Judah, Benjamin, and Levi went to captivity in Babylon. All right? So this is talking about America. This is Jeremiah prophesied. And all that took them captives held them fast and refused to let them go. And like now we still in captivity, man. So that's about it. I mean, you can read the rest of it. It says a descendant of non or crypto Jews, Riverwind is among the few who believe that Native Americans share ties with the Jews. So it says, in the interview he shared, it translated a prayer which he believes is reminiscent of Shema prayer, or the Shemai prayer, which is really Shemai. Shema, Shema, Nayuna, Po Pascha, Haya, Ya. Which translated was listen, listen, people. As you gather together, we will dance before the Creator. But it was really the Shemai prayer. The Shemai prayer is Shema, Yasha'Allah, Yahweh, Allahayanahu, Yahweh, Chad. Hear, O Israel, our Lord, our God is one God. So God kind of had like a little bit of mix about that. He said a reverend explained that while among his people, the ancient name for God was Yahya. Yahya just means he. But it's really Yahweh. He is, or he is to be. He exists. Among his wife's ancestors in the Cherokee, they call God Yohewa. See, the Lord had took his name from him. See, but it's really it's really Yahweh. A title with striking similarities to Yod Ki Vav Ki. They also carried an ark into battle, kept the seventh day of rest, the Sabbath, and had cities of refuge, and don't eat pork, maintains Riverine. So Lord willing, I get that book, man. I can't believe this is still a topic of discussion of who the 10 tribes were. As you Hispanics and Native Americans, y'all are biblical Israelites, and the kingdom is for you. Repent, keep the commandments, man. And the more information, Lord, when I get that book about James Adair, you can further expound on the customs of the Native Americans and Hispanic tribes being the lost 10 tribes of Israel, okay? And, we will come and unite once again under Yahweh Shah, which was King Solomon. And he's going to bring peace to us. So with that, I want to give all praise to Yahweh, Hashem, Yahushua, Hashem, Chak, Daj, Lamar, to the elders, the master, Ruah. So next video, Shalom.